Okay, are we ready to resume?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Rachel?
Is Casey on?
No, not yet.
Okay.
There we go.
Casey.
All right. So we're back on the record for Aponte, coming back from a recess. All right, so Mr. Blumberg, you have just finished the direct with this witness, Mr. Houston. Cross.
Hey, please, court. Thank you. Mr. Kroll, how are you today?
I'm good, sir.
Mr. Aponte, you have known him ever since like the middle of December. Is that correct?
Yes. That's correct.
December of 2019. Okay. While he was in detention, what levels was he on back there?
Level 1, majority of his stay.
Okay. And he was released towards the end of January 30th, 2020, placed on an electronic monitor. And has Mr. Aponte had any issues while being on that supervision?
No. He's had 2 incidents on the monitor, both where the monitor broke. Mom contacted us before we even got the alert. Right when it happened, family stayed in communication till it could be restrapped.
Okay. Is it safe to say that Anthony and his mother are fairly on top of everything?
It would appear to be that way, yes.
All right. Is his home life supportive?
The way they have presented to me so far throughout, it appears he has a very supportive family, yes.
Okay. Has he had any potential violations or any problems since he's been released from detention?
No.
Okay. And, you know, just for the record, he had no prior interventions with the Juvenile Justice Department prior to this incident. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Kroll, you've had access to the police reports, the digital media, and the stipulation of evidence in this case. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
All right. And we're here on a tampering with evidence case. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's because the murder case was disapproved by the Tarrant County Grand Jury for lack of probable cause.
Correct.
Okay. What is your recommendation in this case? You've dealt with it now for approximately 8 months.
My recommendation would be at this point in time that since he's been out on the M and while he was in detention, we've had no issues, that he appears to be a good candidate for someone who could be supervised within the community.
Yes, sir. At this point in time, do you anticipate any issues with his supervision from what you know of him and his family?
I think with everything going on, I would imagine there's probably some trauma and underlying issues that need to be dealt with. So I would recommend a psychological for treatment recommendation so that we could correctly supervise them in the community if that is the plan.
Yes. One moment here, I'll see if I have anything else. Your Honor, I'm going to pass a witness.
Redirect?
I don't have anything, Judge.
Okay. Next witness?
This time, Your Honor, the state would call Mr. Cashin, but for the purposes of an allocution or victim impact statement.
Okay, we'll handle that last. We'll do that after you rest. Any other witnesses or exhibits?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, any other witnesses or exhibits?
No other witnesses or exhibits, Judge.
Okay, so this is the time for victim's impact statement. Mr. Cashin or Ms. Cashin.
I'll be brief. Because of a very foolish decision my son made the day he died, he won't get an opportunity or a chance to change his life, as you will, Anthony. And my family, my wife and I and his 4 brothers and 4 sisters would hope that you'd use the opportunity you perhaps are about to get for good in your life and to benefit and bless others, especially your family. because Christopher won't have those opportunities. Don't waste yours. And I'm finished.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. Mr. Houston, any witnesses or exhibits?
The only exhibit I have is going to be Respondent's Exhibit number 1, and I presented that on your desk. This was an exhibit Mr. Boneberg and myself talked about during the break. It's the parental statement regarding Anthony Aponte written by his mother, Laura Ramirez.
No objection, Judge.
All right, respondent's one is admitted.
And I have no further witnesses, Your Honor, nor exhibits.
Closings.
Waive opening, reserve right to close.
Mr. Houston?
Your Honor, just like Mr. Cashin says, these are two young men that both made bad mistakes that day. There was a very good reason why this case was rejected by the Tarrant County Grand Jury, and my client has been charged, rightfully so, with tampering with evidence because that's what he did do. He has no history. To my knowledge, he hasn't been in trouble for anything ever, aside from this. And like the probation officer, Mr. Crawl, stated, while he's been out for approximately 8 months, there have been no issues with him or his family. He's done everything to the letter. And even when there has been a problem with the equipment, the family has contacted probation before they even realized there was a problem. There is a recommendation or a plan for community supervision in this case. The family would hope that the judge would utilize his discretion to grant that opportunity for probation, because I don't think Anthony or his family is going to make a fool out of you on this. And I think he is going to make the best of any chance he's given. And in light of the circumstances of this case, I would believe that would be the appropriate situation. And I'll just leave it to you, the court, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Bumber?
Your Honor, I mean, there's no disguising that this is a sad situation all around. You know, Mr. Cashin pretty well summed it up. And it's obviously the hope of all sides that Chris's life doesn't go without meaning. And it's sad that this was the last instance of Chris's life. But it was also by the actions of Mr. Aponte that put him in this situation subsequent to the shooting, the killing of Chris Cashin, to disguise what happened in that vehicle, in that apartment parking lot. We'd ask that whatever the punishment is, whatever the disposition you see fit, Judge, that no contact be made with the Cashin family at this point. And also just that intensive supervision that would be, if the court did feel that probation were in order, that just the intensive supervision, as much as you could put on him. We'd ask for any drug counseling programs as well. We also asked further for no association with his co-respondent, Mr. Delgado, who's already pled to this case. Other than that, Judge, we'll defer to you.
Court, having considered the competent evidence provided, as well as reviewing, including the social history prepared by our juvenile probation department, will find that there's a need of rehabilitation, and that protection of the public as well as the child requires disposition to be made. I have a couple of questions, all right? And this really, Mr. Aponte, this is really for your mom's and your family's benefit. First question was, where'd you get this annex? I'm asking you this because I really want, it's not so much for me, but it's really for your mom to know.
Yeah. I don't, it was like an old friend. I don't really talk to him no more. You know what I mean?
What's his name? Say, Anthony, and I'm not upset. I'm very serious though. I want to kind of put this out there is you're asking for probation. And the biggest part about probation is this idea that you're owning up to your mistakes, you're owning up to your past decisions, and you're saying, I am willing to work with the court in order to do what the court thinks is best for me. Okay. So it's no longer really about you. Because what probation means is, it means I've committed you to TJJD, but I'm giving you a chance, as long as you follow all the rules, to not go to TJJD. Okay. So that's kind of my perspective. Anytime you're trying to conceal information or figure out a way to get around the system or beat the system, tells me that you're not really trying to engage and that probation is not right for you. Okay. For me, I look at this, what's done is done. What's happened has happened. But I think it's important for your parents to know, because your parents are such an important part of this probation process and rehabilitation process, that they need to know what's going on in your life. Okay. If you think that I'm violating your sense of privacy right now, you can only imagine how little privacy you have while you're at TJJD. Okay. This is the consequence of your decisions. All right. And decisions were made and mistakes were made by many people that evening. All right. But this is really, I think your parents need to know who you've been associating with, who's not good, because they are just as important for you to successfully complete probation as Tarrant County, its court is, as well as you are. So that being said, all right, I think it's important to know, or for your mom to know, where'd you get the Xanax from?
It was this kid named Enrique, but we're not friends anymore.
Okay, Anthony, there's a court reporter taking this down, so I'm going to have to ask you to say that louder.
His name was Enrique, but I'm not friends with him anymore. It's just in the past.
Okay. Has your mom met Enrique?
No.
Where'd you meet him from?
Like school. So.
Cool. All right. So the next question is, where'd the gun come from?
His friend or whatever.
Okay. So which friend?
His friend, Enrique's friend.
Enrique's friend? Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you meet him? You met him through Enrique? That's a yes?
Yes, sir.
Answer out loud. All right.
How long did you have the gun for?
What, 3 months, maybe? I don't really remember. Probably around there.
Did you keep it at home during those 3 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, that's fine. How much did you pay for it?
160, 150, I don't remember.
How long had you been selling drugs?
Only for like 6, 8 months.
But how many times did you sell?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Got to give me a number. More than 100, 20?
More than one.
Right.
Yeah.
When you went to make these deals, what would you tell your mom? Where would you tell her you're going?
To the park, to a friend's house, stuff like that.
I know it's not easy, right, owning up to this, but I think you need to understand one thing about life is when you lie, a lot of times you have to tell more lies to cover up the lies.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's important now, because you're asking me for this chance on probation, is for you to understand that all this stuff, that's old Anthony, right? And so there's a new Anthony now, and that new Anthony is one that doesn't need to keep secrets from mom, okay? Because mom's actually on your side. And I think part of this, Anthony, part of why you're having such a difficult time with this is that you understand right from wrong, okay? I think you were probably raised better, and you get it, and now this is the day of reckoning where you have to own up to the wrong. And it's uncomfortable, and I get that. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have to do that myself in the past, right? That's just part of life, but it's an important first step. The longer you try and keep this lie going, the more likely you are to end up being a person who has to continue to lie, especially to those who love you the most and trust you the most. Right. I'm going to break for a second, and this is for the Cashins, all right? And I just want to have a heartfelt, it's a shame that I can't be face to face in the same room with you as I'm talking to you, all right? I do know you've come to all the court settings, all the detention hearings, everything. And I just admire you for seeing this through. I don't know if it's because, I imagine a lot of it is just because you feel like you kind of owe this to Christopher, right? Just to see how it ends and what happens with this. But no matter what the reason is, personal or public, I just want to tell you that I do admire you for that. I also want to tell you that I think truly the greatest tragedy in life, in this world, is when a parent has to bury a child. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Parents are supposed to bury or children are supposed to bury their parents. That's just the way, that's kind of like the contract we have with life. Okay? And for me, it always devastates me whenever I hear about a parent having to bury their child, because that is truly, in my mind, a tragedy. Right? And for whatever reason that children pass away, whether it's natural causes or unnatural, still it's not supposed to happen that way. Right? And so for that, my heart goes out to you. I wanted to take the time to let you know, as a parent, one parent to another. Anthony, so I want to let you know what my concerns are. My concern is that at some point you decided that it was okay to be a drug dealer. Right? And it may have started out something small, something minor, but eventually at one point there was a discussion you had with yourself that said, I'm a drug dealer. Right? And at a certain point that you thought, well, I'm a drug dealer and it's inherently dangerous, you knew it was illegal, that you thought it was appropriate to get a gun to defend yourself. And like you just told me, you've been selling for 8-9 months, but then you only got the gun about 3 months prior. And I understand that in that type of situation, if somebody decides to go acquire a gun, they're also doing that because they're either realizing the need for it, as well as the willingness to use it. And that you decide at some point that is something that you're willing to do, is to take a human life. And that's very disturbing that you would get to that point and not kind of tap the brakes and say, this is too much, I need to get out of the situation. Honestly, Anthony, I wish that I had met Christopher before you did, because I think there may have been a chance for me to have this conversation with him, for him to understand that the decisions that he's making is taking him down the wrong path. Unfortunately, I did not have that opportunity, but I do with you. So one thing I do want to say, and this is really kind of to you, but it's also to the Cashins, is that our Texas Family Code is not the criminal code. The Family Code is designed specifically not around retribution. Okay, it is not about punishment. In fact, I am specifically ordered by the legislature, by our law, that I should not consider these things these matters in this court as punishment, but my focus is on rehabilitation. Now, some children cannot be rehabilitated, and I understand that and I accept that, and I have no problem sending them to TJJD. But you have shown me that you do realistically have a chance of rehabilitation. Right? And so I think the law requires me to give you that chance on probation. And so I will. I need you to understand, though, is that getting probation is one thing, one process. Having a probation revoked is another process. Right now, I do not think about, it's not significant to think about the seriousness of the offense. It's about whether the child can be rehabilitated. But I can assure you, Anthony, that if you ever come back for a violation of probation, that the significance and the results of your actions that got you on probation in the first place weigh very heavily in my decision-making process on commitment or whether to violate your probation or not. Okay. So on one hand, I give you a lot of deference to give you a chance. But if you prove to me that probation is not appropriate, that you cannot behave, you cannot make good decisions, then that's when I consider about committing you and the results of your decisions involving Christopher, that comes into play. Okay. It comes into play heavily. So I just want to let you know and be aware of how this is going to play out. You have to think of this as you're asking me for a second chance. If you end up violating your probation and you come back to the courtroom, really it's not going to help you very much to ask for one more chance. This is your chance. Okay? I hope you understand that. I hope you take this very seriously. So I'm going to probate the sentence. All right, I'm ordering no contact with either the co-respondent or co-defendant or with the Cashin family unless the Cashin family initiates contact with you. All right, I'm going to place you, and this is kind of a misnomer, I'm placing you on 1 year of probation. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but this is the way it works. I can extend your probation now all the way up until your 18th birthday. All right. The thing is if it looks like everything you've done right while you were in our detention facility and while you're waiting for this case to finish, that gives me every indication that you did everything fine. If that's true, then probation ends quickly. Okay. However, if you're causing problems, I'll just extend your probation out to your 18th birthday. And it doesn't require a hearing. I can just sign a piece of paper and have it done. So if Mr. Kroll comes to me or whoever your probation officer is and says, well, Anthony's not showing up or not returning phone calls or not taking drug tests or things like that, I just extend the probation out to your 18th birthday, which is the maximum allowed by law. Okay. I want to make sure you understand. But if you do everything right, then it just shows probation did what it was supposed to do. I'm also requiring you to have a substance abuse evaluation because there were drugs involved in this case. I'm also going to require that our juvenile probation department administer a hair follicle test to you 1 month before the release of your probation, whenever that may be. All right. And that's going to go back up to 6 months to tell us if you've been using any illegal substances or not. Okay. All right, I'm also going to order 40 hours of community service. Basically, the reason for this disposition is that I feel like the child is in need of rehabilitation and that legitimately our community can provide for the needs of this child to enable rehabilitation for this child. Finally, I need to let you know, Anthony, that your case cannot be transferred to the adult criminal courts or to the Texas Department of Corrections because this is the grand jury disapproved of the matter. I need to let you know that you can appeal this disposition. You cannot appeal the adjudication portion, but the disposition you can. And depending on your behavior going from here forward, you may have the right to seal your records. It just depends on your actions, but it is possible. Right? Finally, Mr. Boneberg, I don't see anything in my notes that indicate the child was under 17 years old or anything in the record that indicated that. So I want to let you know. Finally, in compliance with Texas Family Code 54.044, the court will make a finding that the child's parent made a reasonable good faith effort to prevent the child from engaging in delinquent conduct, and that despite the parent's efforts, the child continued to engage in such conduct, and so the court will waive any requirements for community service that may be imposed upon a parent under this section of the code. Right. Mr. Fonte, this is the time. Do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
Mr. Kroll.
Would we like to address the EM at this time as he's been on since January 31st?
Okay. He's been fine on EM since January 31st?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and remove the electronic monitor, right? Because you've shown that you haven't run away or snuck out of the house or anything like that. But if it turns out, Mr. Kroll, please make an entry that if he is going to be available for communication as needed, then we'll go ahead and put the monitor back on.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mom, do you have any questions for me?
No, sir, I don't. Thank you.
Did you find the questions I asked Anthony helpful for you as a parent?
Very helpful. I appreciate it.
Hopefully you can see some kind of patterns 8 or 9 months ago, as well as 3 months or prior and 3 months prior. And maybe that can help you make sure that Anthony doesn't make additional poor decisions.
Thank you.
Anthony, you're going to have some tough conversations. I'm sure you've had some tough conversations with yourself while this all went on, but then there's a day of reckoning. I advise you that you tell your mom, answer any questions she may have, all right? Because all she has to do is call Mr. Kroll, and Mr. Kroll lets me know that you're not answering her questions, and then I just put as a condition for probation that you have to answer those questions. It's really that simple. Now remember, the alternative, if you ever get tired of your probation about being honest with your parents, honest with yourself, honest with our probation officer, is you can always request to be off of probation and just be committed to TJJD, and then everything will finish that way. Okay? So it's kind of, I'm putting it on you. Either you can comply 100% or 0%. It's really just up to you. Okay? All right, Cashins, do you have any questions?
No, sir, we're fine. Thank you.
I truly, I'm sorry for you. I think Anthony, I've noticed a change in him. Nobody wanted this. And so my heart goes out to you. But I do appreciate you. As a parent to another, I appreciate everything that you've been there for Christopher. I know, if I'm not mistaken, at one point you were warning him that something like this could happen.
Yeah.
More than once.
Right. And that's, I think, one of the greatest tragedies. If I can say something, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I mean, I can tell what kind of parents you are. You did everything you could. You did everything way more than what's reasonable. You went above and beyond, and it's not your fault. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Mr. Wimberg, anything that I missed?
Just so I understand for future reference, Judge, we did make reference in the disposition phase as to the victim's age, but you're wanting to see that in adjudication. Is that correct?
I think it's going to be any time.
Okay.
Dispo.
Sorry.
Okay. Correct me. Did I miss that? How old was the victim?
Mr. Call did testify to the victim's date of birth in the disposition phase and that he was 16 at the time of the
Okay. All right, then I'll go back in the court. We'll make an affirmative finding. Mr. Houston, do you agree that he said that, or do I have to go to the record?
Mr. Crawl did testify to that.
Okay, so that the victim was under 17 years old, and so that does, Mr. Crawl, that does need to go in the order. Anthony, that affects you on if you violate your probation. The age of the victim has an effect on what happens. Okay, but at this point, it doesn't make a difference, only if you violate your probation. All right, anything else that I missed, Mr. Bumberg?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Houston, anything I missed?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. That'll be the order of the court. Mr. Daniel, waiting on me? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, Judge, I'm ready anytime you are.
Okay, this is for the,
Niall Washington.
all right. Determine sentence probation transfer.
Yes, the transfer hearing.
All right, and that's with Mr. Richmond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we had just,
Yes,
I think y'all caught
he's
the
here.
tail end of the disposition. You mind if I just take 5 minutes to give the reporter a break for her hands?
Sure.
Okay.
No problem.
And we're waiting on Ms. Washington to appear as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be back just in a couple of minutes to give the reporter.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is Alex Gonzalez. This is Dwayne Houston. I'm all right. What do you want to know about cardiac? This is all I can tell you about it. It's, I mean, I can't go attorney-client privilege, but I'm gonna tell you this. Here's public record. He's charged with sexual assault of a child under 16, right? Also, the indictment has
Hello, Mr. Beaver.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
By the way, everyone is very impressed with your Spanish.
Oh, thank you.
Where did you learn your Spanish?
In school, and I married a lady from Mexico.
Okay, well, her Spanish must be very high-level Spanish too,
Yes.
because it's very formal. So we were wondering, we were joking around if you spent time like in Barcelona. It's very formal Spanish. So, all right. So for yours with Padilla,
Yes, sir.
I know Felicia came in here asking about that. We're gonna do anything with it today?
Well, Your Honor, I believe that we are ready. I know, well, I realized that this was just for a status conference, but I believe that Mr. Richmond and the respondent and I reached an agreement.
Okay. Well, good. Well, it's a transfer hearing. And so just need to, I mean, that should go fairly quickly. And then after that, if you have all the paperwork, we can just go forward on y'all's. Does that sound good?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Judge, I know the victim's family wanted to view this. I'll let the victim advocate know that, would you say we'll probably do this in, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes?
Well, so is y'all's, everything worked out, adjudication and dispo?
For Padilla?
For Padilla?
Yeah, I think we're ready. Larry, you think so?
Your Honor, I believe we're ready.
Okay. I think. Well. Well, Mr. Richmond, I mean, you're on both. Tell me what you want to do.
I mean, for me personally, either works. Although I know Mr. Daniel, I think, has a hearing he needs to be at.
Yeah. Judge, I have another hearing starting at 10 minutes till 3.
Okay.
I'm just right outside the courtroom for it right now, or right outside the building anyway. So
Yeah, let's go ahead and take care.
I'm flexible either way.
We'll go ahead and take care of Mr. Daniels first.
Okay.
Are we close, Ms. Guerrero, are we close to getting the child here?
Yes, they're here. They're out in the lobby.
Are they? Okay, let's go ahead and bring them in. so we can get started. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, no, thank you. Okay. Mr. Richmond, Mr. Daniel, are we ready to proceed?
Yes, I believe so. I can't see my client on the screen, but I'm assuming she's there.
Um,
Let me see
Yeah,
if I
we're
can-
actually-
Your Honor, I'm gonna go move them to the room.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Padilla, you're welcome to sit here, and as long as you're not using that room, you're welcome to sit and watch. It's just a court proceeding. It's just not involving you. We're going to do yours after we finish with Mr. Daniel. Okay. All right, so let's see. You're Sonia Washington? Okay, I'm sorry, you were on mute. Are you Sonia?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Richmond, Mr. Daniel, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Rachel, are you ready? All right, so the court will call cause number 323-109-682-19. This is styled in the matter of Sanya, S-A-N-Y-A. I think it's Tanae, T-A-N-I-E. Did I pronounce that right, Sanya?
Well, I got two middle names, so it don't matter, Tanae or Janae.
Okay, and then last name Washington.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, we are here on a 54.051 transfer of probation to adult district court hearing. Court will take notice that there was a motion filed by the state of Texas, represented by Mr. Mark Richmond, on August 3rd, 2020, and that there's a return of summons on Ms. Washington with a return date of August 10th, 2020, and a summons to Jaquela Davis, Jauquyalon Davis, with a return date of August 10th, 2020. We'll also take notice that this child, Miss Washington, is a female child, 18 years old, with a date of birth of August 27th, 2001. And this hearing is occurring before her 19th birthday. I'm sorry. It's before her 19th birthday. Ms. Washington, I want to let you know a couple things. I have to let you know you have certain rights at this hearing. You do have a right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution to say nothing at all. Nobody can compel you to talk. You do also have the right to confrontation. That means any person that comes to this court and has anything to say about you, you do have a right through your attorney to cross-examine them and ask them questions and look them in the eye as that's happening. You do also have a right to have this contested hearing as guaranteed under the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You do not have a right to a jury. This is a decision for me, the judge, to make, and myself alone. Right? So what I have to do is I go through this hearing. The purpose of the hearing is to decide whether your probation should be transferred to the adult court or not, right, and out of the juvenile system. And I can either transfer it, your case will be reassigned to one of our criminal district judges and be supervised by that court for the remainder of your probation, or I can go ahead and discharge you from probation here at the juvenile level where your case does not get transferred. Right? If I do transfer you, then what could happen is if you violate your probation, then you could be sentenced to the Texas Department of Corrections or Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve the sentence that you were assessed in this case. The court will also make a finding that on March 27th of 2019, this court adjudicated this child as delinquent for the felony offense of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon with the offense date of January 21st, 2018. And at disposition hearing on the same date, this court committed this child to TJJD for a period of 5 years and was probated for a period of 5 years. All right. And Ms. Washington, I need to let you know if I do transfer you to the adult probation, your probation time that you served here as a juvenile would count. That means you would get all your time since March 27th towards your adult probation, and that you would serve the remainder of your time on probation with possibility of early release from probation, depending on the court and the judge you're in front of. If you do violate your probation and get sentenced to the Texas Department of Corrections, then you would have to serve at most 5 years, and any sentence there, you would be, because this was an aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, you are not eligible for parole, that you would have to serve 50% of your sentence before you could get released, okay? Anyways, all right, so Mr. Richmond, any of the findings you make? I think I covered them all.
I believe in terms of findings, that's what we need, Your Honor.
All right, okay. Any openings or waive?
I'll waive opening.
All right.
Waive.
All right, your first witness?
Your Honor, the state offers petitioner's exhibit number 1, which is the social history. I believe I gave it to your
Objections, Your Honor.
Okay, 1 second, let me see if you have it. Social history up here. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you ready? Okay, so it is left on the bench. It's a social history regarding this child prepared by Ms. Smiley, labeled Petitioner's Exhibit 1. You offer, Ms. Richmond?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Daniel?
No objection, Your Honor.
Petitioner's 1 is admitted.
The state calls Rosalind Smiley as a witness.
All right, Ms. Smiley, good afternoon. If you could raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give at this cause currently at trial that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, thank you. You may lower your hand. Mr. Richmond, please proceed.
Ms. Smiley, what do you do for a living?
I am a certified juvenile probation officer with Tarrant County Juvenile Services.
And how long you've been working in that capacity?
15 years.
And are you the probation officer who supervises Washington?
I am.
How long have you had her assigned to your caseload?
She's been assigned to my caseload since April of 2019.
And for what offense is she for?
She's currently on for aggravated robbery. She's on a 5-year determinate sentence for aggravated robbery.
Can you describe or summarize the circumstances of that aggravated robbery?
Well, according to the police report, she was referred in custody on December 15th, 2018 by the Fort Worth Police Department on an arrest warrant for the charge of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. She was identified by security camera footage and pursuant to the investigation for the subsequent aggravated robbery charge. And this charge happened at the Ocean 7 Food Mart on Miller Avenue in Fort Worth, Texas. in which the employees were counting the money at the end of the night, business night, and bagging their money as well. And it's alleged that Sanaya placed a gun, pulled a gun, and pointed it at another employee and threatened to shoot him if the employee didn't surrender the money.
And when was she adjudicated and placed on offense?
Okay, could you repeat that? There was a hiccup.
Yeah, I'm saying you cut out.
No problem. When was she adjudicated and placed on probation for this offense?
She was adjudicated and placed on probation on March the 27th of 2019.
So she's been on probation for a bit under a year and a half.
Correct.
What was the term of probation that she was placed on?
She was placed on a determinate sentence probation.
That was for 5 years?
That is correct.
What services was she ordered to do as part of her probation when it started?
She wasn't ordered any services for her probation, but she was referred for a service, a program called Big Thoughts, in which she did participate in and complete.
And when did she complete that?
She completed that this past Friday.
That would be August 14th of this year?
That is correct, of 2020.
Did you refer to her to any other services during the time she was on supervision?
No, I did not.
Did you have any other requirements for her to part of her supervision and rehabilitation?
I did not, besides the terms and conditions of probation.
Okay. In terms of those conditions of probation, how did she do on those?
She did exceptionally well. She had one incident where I couldn't get a hold of her for 2 weeks, and that was in May of this year. Other than that, she was available for visits, reported.
I'm sorry, Ms. Smiley, can you repeat that?
She did well on probation. I had one incident in May where I could not get a hold of her for 2 weeks. Did not know her whereabouts. Her parents didn't know of her whereabouts. And that's the only incident that I had with her. Other than that, she reported as required. She had jobs. She completed high school a semester early.
And as part of either her supervision or...
Sorry. Ms. Smiley, when you say May of 2019 or May of 2020?
20. I'm sorry, May of this year, 2020.
And she had already graduated high school at that point?
She did, Your Honor. She actually graduated high school shortly after she was placed on probation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Richmond, please.
So kind of going back, I apologize if I'm jumping around a bit. So when she was put on supervision or prior to going on supervision, are you aware of any, I don't know, evaluations or anything that were done of her to determine what rehabilitative services would be useful?
I am not sure if she had a psych eval. I'm not sure. I don't believe she had an evaluation. Hold on. She did not, Mr. Rich. She did not have any evaluations completed.
Okay, and that's, I guess, would be part of the reason there were no recommendations for any
Correct.
services for referrals. And prior to the aggravated robbery, did she have any other juvenile referrals?
She didn't. She had one, I believe. She did not. That was her first. That was her first and only referral to the department. To this department.
To this department? Did she
Yes.
have a referral to a different county?
She did.
And what was that?
She had a UUMV, and I can think of the name of the county. Let me look and see. I believe it was Grayson County. She had a UUMB out of.
Does Kaufman County sound right?
Say it again.
Kaufman County?
Kaufman could be. And that was supervisory caution because the victim signed a declaration of non-prosecution.
And that was the family member, correct?
Yes, it was a family member.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And then Sanaya turns 19 on the 27th of this month, correct?
That is correct.
So you talked about the one program you referred her to, which was the Big Thoughts program. Can you describe what that is?
Well, it's a program that's used in Dallas County. It was just brought to Tarrant County this year, and will proceed again next year. Sort of a mentorship program. It has arts. This year, it was supposed to be at Texas Wesleyan University, but because of the pandemic, they all had to do it virtually. It was shortened to 3 weeks, but it was initially supposed to be 7 weeks. But she attended Monday through Friday for 3 weeks from 11 to 2. They worked on peer counseling. If you don't mind, let me pull it up because it's new, so I don't want to add anything to it or take anything away.
I want to do it again.
Just don't get in trouble to do it.
Oh, no, it's not for trouble. You can volunteer, you can meet until 25.
It's good. It's like something positive.
And I got a bonus because I was good.
You was good.
I got $50 bonus.
You must like it really.
It is described, let me just read what it's described as. It says Creative Solutions is an arts workforce intervention program for adjudicated and marginalized youth. They use visual, performing, and digital arts to help young people tap into their inherent greatness by improving job skills, promoting a positive self-image, and increasing social and emotional development. Creative Solution also uses a trauma-informed, results-driven model to promote long-lasting change in the youth that are served. And if you recall, we spoke, Mr. Richmond, about them having a mentor that will follow them even after the program for as long as they will allow that mentor to work with them.
So kind of in summary, were you still describing it?
No, you can.
Right. So summarize, it's a 3-week program which engaged in job skills. Sounds like some social and emotional development. It says trauma informed, so I imagine maybe there's a bit of a, I don't know, light mental health element to it. And then she has completed that, and then there are further services that she can take advantage of with this program going forward.
If that's what her mentor deems she needs, but at this point, it hasn't been deemed that she needs any further.
Okay, there is a mentor that she can use.
It is, correct.
And then if necessary, that mentor can refer her to additional services through this program.
That is correct.
And then also through her successful completion, she got herself a $300 stipend?
She did.
Okay. Are you aware of any other services that she completed during her time on supervision?
No, she wasn't referred to any other services.
And then prior to her being on your caseload, she was on electronic monitoring for about 2 months. Is that right?
You are correct. That is when she was in intake pending this offense.
Okay. And are you aware of any issues that occurred during that period of time?
No, I'm not. She completed the program successfully. She completed the EM successfully.
All right. What is your recommendation? Do you have a recommendation? I guess I should ask first.
No, I'll defer to the court.
Okay. And where is Sanaya living right now?
She's living with her father.
And that's in Tarrant County?
Yes, it is in Tarrant County.
All right. I believe those are the questions I have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Washington, I think you used the word exceptional to describe Sanaya earlier. She's probably been one of your best probationers, hasn't she?
Are you talking to me, Mr. Daniels?
You said Miss Washington, but I think you meant Miss
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
all
meant
right.
Miss Smiley. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, she have, and I believe I described it as such because of the circumstances in which I got her. I'm sorry, my computer freeze.
And she actually had a baby early on in this case, didn't she?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Say it again, Mr. Daniel.
Okay, I'm sorry. I may have interrupted you. Were you finished?
No, the computer froze up.
Okay,
So
were you finished your answer? Okay, go right ahead.
No, I said I described that as because of the state she was in when I got her. She was pregnant and considered a high risk pregnancy, and she didn't let that deter her from doing what she needed to do. So, which most kids do.
Okay. Okay. So she had a baby during this, right?
She did.
And at one time she was holding 2 jobs, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And she's working on a college program, right, at Remington College?
She is.
Some kind of a degree, is that correct, in nursing?
That is correct.
Okay. What kind of a degree is that?
It is medical assistant.
Okay. Okay.
And it's not
based on what you've seen so far.
Okay. Only one at a time, please.
Trade.
Okay. Is it a certificate, ma'am?
Yes,
I can do it. I can do it.
She's frozen.
She probably freezing.
There we go. Miss Smiley?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, when you're frozen, Mr. Daniel asked if it's a certificate.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. And despite some problem earlier this year, you never had to report her to the court, did you?
I did not.
Okay. Do you know of any programs that would benefit her by being transferred to adult court?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, I think that's all the questions I have.
Mr. Richmond, do you have a redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. Thank you.
Miss Smiley, I have a question. Did we give her a drug test during her probation?
Did, and she was never positive for, I never suspected any drug use, never smelled any, but she has had drug tests and she was negative for her drug test.
When was her last one?
When she was pregnant.
So when was her last one?
I believe it was when she was pregnant. Yes, it was in April.
Of 2020?
2019.
Okay, so it's been over a year since we gave her a drug test.
It has.
Okay. All right. Mr. Richmond, please call your next witness.
State rest, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Daniel, do you have any?
Your Honor. No, sir, I don't have any witnesses to call.
Okay.
I rest.
All right. Mr. Davis, are you dad?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I'm
All right,
finished.
I got some questions. Okay, I have some questions for you, Dad. All right, so tell me about Sonia. Tell me about the change you've seen in her since March or before March of, I guess since December of 18.
Well, it was kind of more of a change back. I mean, I've been around her since she was born, so she's back to the same that she was. She's never been really, she don't like a lot of people. She's not really friendly with a lot of people, but certain things that she's like, she's really into. Her child has grounded her. I mean, she's more grounded now. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, but, we haven't been able to, like hang out a lot. So spend a lot of time at home. Spend a lot of time with son.
What do you mean by grounded?
Well, I don't, not saying that she like got out, but she was like, I mean, she was a runner when she was younger. So she spent a lot of time, if she couldn't go where she wanted to go, she would leave.
Wait, when you mean a runner like track and field or runner like disappear?
No, she would like run away.
Okay.
She would run away from, she would have problems and she would run away from. And she has, she's grinding, she deals with her problems, spend a lot of time with her son, work, go to school. We bump heads, but it's more because we both got strong personalities, she has a lot of conviction in things that she want to do and how she feel about stuff. And I kind of promote that. I don't want her to, be shy or, keep her feelings inside. I mean, you have to, people won't know unless you tell them. And I mean, it's my kid. I mean, I'm going to be biased anyway. I mean, she's great. Compared to what she was, she's great.
Okay. What about her friends? Tell me about her friends.
I'm not really I'm not one of those dads. I just kind of, I don't want to get friendly with them because if anything goes bad, nobody's a friend with me. So I'm not the nice parent.
Okay.
No one that frowns up. So her son, all I pretty much see her with is her son. Her siblings and her is they kind of go in and out. She has her son's dad, and
she's still together with her son's dad?
Huh?
Is she still together with her son's dad?
Hey? Yeah.
Come on, Dad. How come you don't know who your daughter's dating?
I mean, it's not like they're dating. I mean, they're not dating. They have a child, so it's not like dating is like where they come. They. I mean, he's over to the house like all the time. So it's like, I mean, he has a kid there, so he needs to be.
Is he respectful to you?
He better be.
Well, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. He better be. I mean, he's a nice.
Well, I know he better be. I'm just wondering if he is.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's a nice dad, and good with his son, and they
giving
have
child support.
Nice dynamic between them. So
Is he giving child support?
No.
Okay. All right. So, is Sonia respectful to you?
She better be. Yes, sir.
Well, I don't know. I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about right now.
Yes, sir. She's always been respectful. She was raised like that. Her mom was real. She's like a real stickler for yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Yes, sir, no, sir. She knows the black and white of it all. I mean, she get a little out of line. Everybody does when they get a little bit agitated or emotional about something. But other than that, for the most part, she's very respectful to me, anyway.
Okay.
Daddy got that voice. They might play with everybody else. Daddy got that voice, though.
Right.
We had a nice little talk when she came to stay, and I told her she got a blessing, so she needs to. For the most part, she hasn't let me down.
She has what?
I said when she came back, she was pregnant, and when she went through court, and she came to stay with me, so. Me and her had a talk, and I told her that she was gonna have to get her act together. She had a child now. She wants to be an adult so bad. I said, now it's time to be an adult. She hasn't let me down. She was still a child when it happened, but she's grown up in the last year or so. She's grown.
Okay.
She's grown.
So, Dad, last question for you is: any close friends or family members of yours been to prison?
Close friends or family members?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say close friends. I would say associates.
Right.
But I live alone. I was married for a time. I'm not really I don't really hang out or have a lot. I have a cousin that he went to prison, but my house is kind of like nobody really comes by.
And the reason why I'm asking is, does Sonia understand what a felony does to a person's life?
A felon does?
Does she understand what if she was to pick up a felony?
Oh yeah.
How that impacts her life?
Yeah.
Does she get it?
Do you get it?
Yes, sir, I do. It don't just affect me, it affect my child. That's really what I'm mostly concerned
It affects
about.
all of us.
Right. Because you understand, when you're a felon, if you want to rent an apartment, most apartment complexes don't rent out to felons, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
what you end up doing is you're renting an apartment at the only apartment complex that rents to felons. So they're full of felons. So now you're raising a child right next to child molesters and murderers and everything like that. You see what I mean? Because that's kind of where you're stuck, because that's the only place you can rent from. So that's why you may not have done anything bad, like something serious. So it may be like hot checks or taking a car. Then all of a sudden, the only place you can live next to, right, are rapists or murderers. And it sounds horrible, but that's where society is. So, I mean, you understand how important it is, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, closings.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to ask the court transfer the probation, and here's my reasons for that. One is the nature of the offense that got us in this place in the first place. I mean, it's a pretty concerning robbery where we're involving brandishing guns and threatening people. So that's pretty concerning to begin with. The original term of probation was 5 years, which means haven't gone even a third the way through. I think we're just a little under a third right now. So we haven't gotten a lot of the supervision that was originally laid out. And particularly since there wasn't a lot of referrals for services, it's not like we identified psychological issues or drug issues or whatnot as kind of reasons of rehabilitation. Seems like this case's plan for rehabilitation was kind of keep a watch over her, make sure she kind of maintains herself in life, and kind of be there in case she gets into trouble. I think given that's the plan for this, that a more extended supervision and continued supervision would be in the best interest. And part of that is also because since she just finished that program last Friday, there are some programs which, while the PO said that she's not been recommended for yet, they're still available to her. And I think having a PO kind of watching over her, and if the necessity for those services becomes apparent, that having a person watching, making sure she stays kind of going with those would be beneficial. So based on those factors, Your Honor, I'd ask that the court transfer the probation so that supervision can continue. Unless you have any further questions, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Daniel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would ask that you terminate the program. Sanaya has been on probation for 1 year, 4.5 months, and previously to that, excuse me.
Mr. Daniel,
she was,
Mr. Daniel, you
she
said
was
1
on
year.
an electronic monitor for 2 months and had no infractions.
Mr. Daniel.
Yes.
Okay, you said 1 year, 4.5
Yes.
months, and then you cut out. So can you repeat that?
Yes. Okay. Yes, 1 year, 4.5 months she's been on probation.
And then what?
Prior to that, she was on and had no infractions. She was never reported to you during all this time. She completed her high school diploma. She had a baby, and she's enrolled in a program now to become a medical assistant. She's done everything that she's been asked to do. If there were any more programs that would have benefited her along the way, they could have been recommended along the way, and they were not. So for all those reasons, I would ask that you terminate her probation now and just let her be a productive citizen in our society and a mother.
Okay, the court, having heard the competent evidence provided at this hearing, will decide that the child should be discharged from her probation on her 19th birthday from the remainder of the sentence of probation. All right, Ms. Washington, let me explain what's going on. I have a big problem with kids with guns. It's an aggravated robbery. This is a really big deal. Okay? You've made it just over 1/4 of your probation. For the 5 year, you've gone 16 months out of the 60. But much like the Bible, you read the Bible, you go to church?
Yes, sir.
You know the story of the parable about the master and the servants and the talents?
I don't know that story.
Okay, it's in Matthew, but it's where the master left and left the servants with 1 talent, 1 with 5 talents. Talents is a form of money, and 1 with 10 talents. The one with the most, he just buried it, did nothing with it. All right, the master came back and he was upset. He said, you could have done so much with what I gave you, but you did nothing, right? The servant with 1 talent, who had the very least, went out and earned 1 talent, doubled the money, okay? And the master was pleased. And this is, the parable goes, this is God talking, saying that he's given us all different levels of talents, right? Given different things to work with. And depending on what we do with what we have determines whether God is happy with what we've done, right? Now, I'm not comparing myself to God, but what I'm saying is, in the time of your probation, you were given certain things to do, and it seems like you made the most of it. And that's why I'm discharging you from probation, because you didn't start with much. It was a short period, but with what you had, you did great things. Okay? That being said, looking forward in your life, now that I'm not going to transfer you to the adult courts for probation, what that means is think of this as a situation where you're given something. Now, what are you going to do? Right? So for the next 3-4 years of your life, you need to think about, if Judge Kim had transferred me to adult probation, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do this. Make the best of your time. You've given me every indication that you're not likely to reoffend, even though I would be more comfortable with supervision. Looking at what the law says, the question is, have you been rehabilitated? I don't see anything in the adult courts that will change what you've been doing, okay? So I'm very proud of you. Congratulations on your baby, right? Congratulations on sticking with things. You graduated high school early, you kept 2 jobs at one point. I don't know what more I can ask from a 17, 18-year-old girl in this day and age, okay? Mr. Richmond, any questions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Daniel, any questions? Anything I missed?
No, sir.
Okay, so Sonia, last question for you. Picture of your baby.
Well, can I get my phone?
Yeah, get your phone. Put up the camera.
I have several. Proud grandfather. He's huge.
Okay, my phone kind of cracked, you guys, but that's his first horse ride. That was a few weeks ago.
He is something else.
Then I got one more.
I got a big one.
Oh, Lord.
My dad got a better one.
Yeah, I got a big one. We always snapping up.
Your Honor,
Yes?
he's actually born on her birthday. So when she turns 19, he'll turn 1.
They-
I like that one.
There you go, right here. That was us. We always snapping up. He's happy.
Good. Thank you. All right, so Sonia, you know what it takes to stay out of trouble. You know how to make good decisions. Keep on making good decisions, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Don't make me regret this, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That'll be the order of the court.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Miss Smiley.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Come on, it's party time.
I can go see my baby.
I guess it was worth it.
It was.
It was.
Okay. Ready for Padilla?
Thing at the CP, the
I'm ready. See Mr. Beavers there.
Okay. Mr. Houston, are you needing me for something? You're on mute.
Actually, I'm gonna go get the family to put them in the room.
Okay. If we don't mind, can we just take a 5-minute break to give the court reporter time to rest her fingers?
Yes.
That last one, because the connection problem was particularly brutal for her. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get everybody ready. We're gonna run to the, Mr. Houston, did you need something? You're on mute, sir.
Well, hopefully you get done with that.
When you're on mute.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, I had a 9:30 a.m. status conference setting with Mark Richmond on Ethan Smith.
All right.
And me and him have been talking about this throughout the day, but right now it's still a trial.
Okay. Thank you for checking in. Anything else, Mr. Houston?
No, sir. Can I go?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause for a little bit to give the reporter a chance to rest her hands.
You're ready. You good to go.
Bueno. Sí. Ujú. Ok. ¿En dónde está? Ah, ok.
Your dad. So Jet has math to turn in, and he has a science to turn in, the solar system. So he has the paper and then the letters. Those are, yes, the cursive, penmanship.
We're just waiting on Mr. Bieber, right?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm here.
Okay, great. Are we ready to proceed?
Respondent's ready, Your Honor.
It's ready, Your Honor.
Rachel, are you ready? All right, the court will call cause number 323-112-978-20. This is styled in the matter of Jan Giovanni Padilla. We're here for an adjudication hearing. The court will take notice of a petition regarding a child engaging in delinquent conduct filed on January 27th of 2020. There's a grand jury approval of the juvenile court petition for a determinate sentence punishment that is signed by the foreman and signed by the judge on June 11th, 2020, with a file mark of June 12th of 2020. That there's a return of the juvenile summons for Mr. Jan Padilla on June 29th of 2020, and to Claudia Avila, A-V-I-L-A, with a return date of June 29th of 2020. Okay, so Mr. Padilla and Ms. Avila, if you can both raise your right hands. Okay, does she speak English?
No.
No, okay.
Your Honor, would you like me to translate?
Yeah, that'll be good enough. It's just the mom. Okay. So do each of you solemnly swear in the testimony you're about to give at this cause currently at trial that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Los dos de ustedes juran que el testamento La evidencia que ustedes dan será la verdad y nada más la verdad. Hay que indicar, sí.
Yes.
Yes.
Lower your hands.
Pueden bajar la mano.
Thank you. All right. So, am I pronouncing your name right? Is it Jan or Jan?
Jan.
Jen. All right, Jen. Couple questions for you. Can you tell me what your full legal name is?
Jan Giovanni Padilla.
Giovanni. And what is your date of birth?
April 4th, 2003.
So, because there's a court reporter in here taking everything down, it's important every word is taken properly. Can I ask you to spit out your gum at that trash can that's over to your left?
Yes. Sorry.
It's okay. I understand. Okay. So, all right. Now, are you an American citizen?
Yes.
All right. So, Jan, there's a couple things I want to go over with you. I have to let you know the nature of these proceedings, the possible consequences. So, you're looking at the offense of indecency with a child by contact. I will let you know this potentially you can do up to 20 years in prison for this. Okay. It would start in the juvenile system, and then eventually you could be transferred to the adult criminal prison system. You understand that?
Yes.
And that if you're to receive probation, that your probation, there has to be a decision made before your 19th birthday, whether I should transfer your probation to the adult criminal courts. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so it starts out in the juvenile courts, but this can transfer to the adult criminal system. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you know you have a right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything, but my understanding is you wish to give up that right and you want to accept responsibility for what you've done. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jen, if at any point you don't understand what I'm saying, we can pause and I can let your attorney, Mr. Beaver, interpret and make sure you understand everything. Do you understand?
Okay. Yes.
So if you're ever uncomfortable, just go ahead and tell me to stop. And we'll give Mr. Beaver a chance. But otherwise, you understand me, correct?
Yes.
You also have a right to trial. So you have a right to make the district attorney prove their case that you actually committed this offense. And I would decide whether or not you actually committed the indecency by contact with a child. But my understanding is you wish to give up that right. You do not need them to prove it. You're willing to admit to it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You also have a right to confront adverse witnesses. That means if anybody has anything to say against you, you have the right to look them in the eye as they're testifying against you, and your attorney can ask them questions if there's problems with their story. My understanding is you want to give up that right to confront the witnesses. You don't need to face your accuser. Is that correct?
Mm.
Okay, little trouble. Mr. Beavers, if you want to just go ahead, let's go ahead and start over with admonishments, all right? Just to make sure he understands, because I just want a comfort level of mine, just because this is so serious with a potential sex offender registration, okay? So if you can go over the Fifth and Sixth Amendment, the right to remain silent and confrontation.
Thank you, Ron. Ok, voy a traducirles lo que acaba de decirles el juez. Es que, Gian Giovanni, usted tiene el derecho de tener un juicio para confrontar a los testigos en su contra, para mirarlos en los ojos y ponerles preguntas. Yo, como su abogado, podría ponerles preguntas a su favor. El estado de Texas necesita comprobar su caso, necesita presentar evidencia y testigos para convencerle al juez que usted cometió la ofensa. Usted tiene el derecho absoluto de guardar silencio. Usted no tiene que dar testimonio, pero el juez le preguntó a usted si usted quiere renunciar a ese derecho y usted respondió que sí. Ahora está preguntándole si usted quiere renunciar a su derecho de confrontar los testigos en su contra. ¿Y cuál es su respuesta?
Que si no,
O sea que, como la joven, yo creo, ¿no?
sí.
Que si tú quieres confrontarla a ella, pero que sí, tu caso.
Si usted insiste que los testigos vengan a la corte para dar testimonio en persona o si usted quiere resolver el caso hoy.
¿Tú qué?
Okay, we'll solve it today.
Okay, so You need to tell the judge then that you're giving up your right to confront the witnesses against you.
I'm giving up my right to confront the
Witnesses.
witnesses against me.
Okay. So if you can just interpret that, Mr. Beaver, do you need to face your accusers?
Usted necesita confrontar personalmente, cara a cara, a las personas que están acusándolo de haber cometido la ofensa.
Sí, los quiero confrontar. ¿No?
So you have the right to
Usted
look
tiene-
at them.
Usted tiene el derecho de mirarlos en los ojos.
And if they're lying, that they have to look at you and be in front of you while they're lying.
Y si ellos están mintiendo, ellos tienen que fijarse en usted mientras están mintiendo.
Do you need to face your accusers?
Usted quiere enfrentar a las personas que están acusándolo.
Pues está todo bien. Puedo ayudar. O si quieres confrontar, quieres hacer lo otro.
Todo esto es así.
Es,
Okay.
mm,
Usted quiere verlos, usted quiere que los testigos en su contra vengan a la corte para dar testimonio.
Vas a ver así frente a
ya
frente.
sé eso,
Oh.
todo, pero nomás que no.
No.
Do you want the witnesses to come to court and testify in front of you and in front of the judge?
Nah.
Now, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to admit to anything. Do you understand?
Usted
Okay.
tiene el derecho de guardar silencio, usted no tiene que decir nada. ¿Usted entiende?
Yeah. Que los
¿Ahorita tienes el derecho de guardar silencio o cuando usted?
No, que es.
So-
I won't confront them.
Oh, okay, but additionally, there's a right guaranteed by the Constitution of the state of Texas, as well as the United States Constitution, that nobody can force you to give testimony that would expose you to being punished, to incriminate yourself. So do you want to give up that right and testify today? ¿Usted quiere renunciar su derecho para guardar silencio hoy? Your Honor, I'm sorry. I don't know if it would be better for the respondent and me to have a breakout, or if
What would you prefer? I don't mind. It seems like he wants to. It just doesn't seem like he's comfortable. And part of it, I think, is a language interpretation, translation issue. So if you would like a breakout, I don't mind letting you go over this. If you want to reset to another day, I don't mind either. I'm sure Mr. Richmond will keep the offer open.
Judge, I'm willing to leave the offer open. I think maybe it would be better if we reset this to a time when we can get an interpreter so Mr. Beaver can kind of do the attorney thing and have a separate interpreter, and that the youth can be comfortable and we can all feel comfortable that he knows his rights and is willing to waive them.
Your Honor, I agree with that. I think that's in his best interest.
I think so. Just because this is so serious, I don't want this to come back on a writ in case he does go to TJJD. And he's old enough that he could get transferred to TDC. And with a 10-year registration, I just want to make sure he's comfortable as he's going through this.
Yes, Your Honor, I appreciate that. And I will visit with both my client and his mother before the next court date.
Sure. So if we can't, Mr. Beaver, if you can just get with Mary and schedule this for another day, and so she can have an interpreter, and we can have the interpreter doing a simultaneous interpretation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I slowed this down. I appreciate y'all getting ready for this, though.
No, I thank you, Your Honor. We'll do that. I'll contact Mary. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. Voy a hablarle, señorita Ávila, por teléfono.
Ok.
Ya terminamos para hoy. Gracias.
Yeah.
No, pues es que no.
Ms. Chavez, I'll give you a call and we'll chat, all right?
delete this.